Alright, for this video I wanted to talk about the Earned Income Tax Credit for Hawaii tax purposes. So at the federal level, we have the Federal Earned Income Tax Credit, right? So everybody in the United States is generally eligible for that no matter where you live, so long as you meet the requirements, right? Your income is at or below or within certain thresholds, and you either have qualifying children or you don't. In this case, we're going to use John Q. Taxpayer. He's going to be an individual that is a resident of Hawaii and he doesn't have any qualifying children, but because his income is below the relevant threshold, he can still get the federal earned income tax credit. So the state of Hawaii has their own version of this, which is computed as a percentage of the earned income tax credit. And this is very common. There's about 30 states that do this kind of state earned income tax credit for their residents. So the first step is always to prepare the federal return first. And the reason you want to do that is because the Hawaii return feeds on information from the 1040, right? This is very common among states. It's going to need your federal AGI and other elements. And then particularly for the earned income tax credit, Hawaii takes 20% of that federal credit. So logically, you can't complete the Hawaii state earned income tax credit unless you know what the federal EIC is. So we've got John here. He's a single filing taxpayer. He lives in Honolulu, and he does not have any dependents. So no qualifying children, but given his income level, he is going to be eligible for the state earned income tax credit and the federal one, right? So the federal earned income tax credit, John completed the worksheet here and looked at the EIC tables. So his earned income is $18,000 with no qualifying children. So if you were to look at the EIC tables, you would find $18,000 of earned income within the column for no qualifying children, and the amount of credit he's going to get for 2021 is $521. So the 521 is reported on page 2 of his 1040, right, line 27A. There's the EIC, 27A for $521. Now that he has that amount, he can complete his Hawaii return. So if he goes to his Hawaii resident income tax return, the EIC portion for state tax purposes in Hawaii is completed on a separate schedule. So if you go to the relevant schedule, it is the form N356. This is the state of Hawaii earned income tax credit form. So important to complete part 1 first, right? This is mandatory. These are the questions that determine your eligibility, right? So John is eligible for the federal and the state EIC. So in part 2 here, we have the amount of the federal earned income tax credit claimed on the federal return, right? There's that $521. And then the amount for Hawaii purposes, at least in 2021 and some prior years, is 20% of that federal amount. So there's 20% times 521 is 104. Now remember, this is a non-refundable credit for Hawaii purposes, meaning John would need some tax liability to be able to take this credit. If you don't have a tax liability, then the 104 won't be refundable, right? Or it's not going to be creditable, rather. So the Hawaii, in other words, isn't going to cut you a check for the amount of the state EIC. They're just going to allow you to apply it against your tax liability, okay? So in John's case, he does have some Hawaii state income tax liability, so he can apply the full 104 state earned income tax credit. So the state credit is then reported here on line 25 in the Schedule CR. So Schedule CR are the refundable and non-refundable state tax credits, right? So Schedule CR for Hawaii, Part 1, we have the refundable piece, and then Part 2, the various non-refundable credits. So that's where the state EIC amount went. And then once you had that 104 amount, ultimately that flows back up here. Let's see, so to page, what page is this? Page 3 of the Hawaii state tax return. So on line 35, we have the total refundable tax credits from Schedule CR. So here we can see it matches, it's $104, and that's because there are no other non-refundable tax credits that John claimed. If he had other non-refundable credits, then the total, including the state EIC, would be reported there. But in this case, very simple return. He just has the one non-refundable tax credit related to the state EIC, and that's $104. So after he applies the state non-refundable EIC credit and then the Hawaii income tax withheld total payments, the amount of his refund is going to be reported. Let's see. So the amount he's going to owe, rather. So he does owe a little bit. So he's going to owe $27. But the idea here is, if you are claiming the federal EIC, be very, very careful to check your state that you're a resident in, because the state might have a similar program. And in this case, Hawaii does, right? So Hawaii has their own version of the state EIC. Okay, so that covers it for this video. I hope that was helpful, covering the state EIC. If you have any questions, obviously, please leave me a comment below. Happy to answer any questions I can, and I look forward to seeing you again on the next video. Thank you.